ओम सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्त्वं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम तत्सत। श्री रामकृष्ण अर्पणमस्तु। I have did Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. ओम सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्त्वं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। We are studying the first chapter of Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, as the spiritual teacher, second part. And that day we read up to 4 paragraphs. In the preface, Saradananda Swamiji has discussed why he has used Guru Bhava first. And the reason he told that he had not planned to write the biography. And secondly, he wanted to present personality of Thakur. So Bhavamukhi has discussed and he has illustrated. Second point was that why you have explained, why not state the facts? Now facts means facts of our experience. And everybody experiences the same thing in different ways, according to the state of the mind. So Saradananda Swamiji says, he has explained in the preface to the first part that we are not interested in the facts only. We are interested in his mind. But objectively, that mind expressed through action. That is how I explain. And if you are more, he is not going to mislead us because he is a rishi. But he says, if you are more sadhana than me, you will understand better. So that is the reply he had given. And then in the beginning he has told that people do not know that Sri Ramakrishna had interaction with many sadhus of the traditional Hinduism or other religions also. And they got their life fulfilled from him and went back to their sampradayas and taught better. In that respect now, we come to para 5. And how the master preached religion? Sitting in Dakshineshwar itself. People came to him and he taught them. So, that is what we are learned. So now, para 5, the state in which the master was when he met the Brahmani. That is an important event in Thakur's life that, give it up. Now, why you are worried? I am not going to drink water now. Sit quiet in the class. So, that is one of the most important events in Thakur's life, coming of Bhairavi. Because she was a sadhika, she was a great scholar, And she could tell that Thakur is an incarnation. So that is the turning point. Now we read that. An important event in the master's life is his meeting the Bhairavi Brahmani. It is seen from this time onward that just as on the one hand, he engaged himself deeply in disciplines in strict accordance with the injunctions of the scriptures and was progressing with firm, quick steps in them. So again, the same thing again and again is telling that sadhana is started regularly. Before Bhairav is coming, he had done a lot of sadhana, but that without the help of scriptures. And now with the help of scriptures, he started sadhana. Even so, on the other hand, the mood of the spiritual teacher clearly and unmistakably began to unfold itself in him. So, from the time he took puja, Guru was started. But when Bhairavi came, this Guru became more manifest. But it cannot be said that the aforesaid mood had not been at all present in him before then. For in the previous chapters, we have brought it to the notice of the reader that the manifestation of the power of the spiritual teacher more or less occurred in his life at all times from his childhood, and that even his teachers who initiated him got the opportunity of perfecting their own spiritual states by the removal of their deficiencies, flaws, and lassitude. Lassitude means uh, laziness, not proceeding in the strong way, with the help of the master's power as the spiritual teacher. What others understood about the exalted state of the master. Exalted state, but what others understood. Why Brahman is coming is important. Before the Brahmani came to the master's the master's extraordinary eagerness and love of God were regarded to a great extent as insanity and physical illness. Except Mathur, people used to think like that. And he was placed under the treatment of eminent physicians, even by Mathur. A physician from eastern Bengal, himself a sadhaka, happened to see him in the house of Ganga Prasad Sen, where the master had come for treatment. Although he pointed out that his bodily symptoms were the extraordinary changes produced by the practice of yoga, nobody took his statement seriously. All, including Mathur, were certain that they were the signs of insanity, though combined with the love of God. That was their thing. But the learned Brahmani, well versed in devotional scriptures, was the first to point out to all that all those symptoms were extraordinarily bodily changes due to corresponding mental states produced by uncommon love of God. Uncommon love of God. That is why people could not understand that. So rare that even the gods covet to possess them in vain. Gods covet to possess such exalted state. She, however, did not stop with merely mentioning this to others. She quoted chapter and verse from the devotional scriptures to show that such physical changes were due to supernormal mental states and had appeared from time to time in the lives of past teachers and yogis dash of Sri Radha, the Supreme Lady of Praja, the embodiment of divine, and of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, the great Lord. Such rare that they appeared only in these two persons. In the field of bhakti, she then proved her statement by showing the similarity of the signs recorded in the scriptures to those manifested in the master's body. When she did so, The master, of course, began to rejoice like a boy, strengthened by the assurance of his mother that all the people of the Kali temple, including Mathur, were not a little astonished by Master Joy. Besides their, why Master Joy? Not because he has been declared as avatar, but that it is not a disease. He has been telling it is not a disease, but Mathur insisted it's a disease. So by Bhairavi's telling, it became clear that it's not a disease. And all the people of the Kali temple, including Mathur, were not a little astonished. Besides, their wonder knew no bounds. When the Brahmani said to Mathur, please bring Pandits, well versed in the Shastra, I am ready to convince them of the truth of my word. That was the change. Now the chapter heading is Vaishnava Charan and Gauri. But how they came, this is the introduction. Mathur's decision at Brahmani's request to convene a meeting of the Pandits well versed in scriptures to discuss the master's condition. Because of her insistence and because Thakur said, please do it, Mathur had to do that. But of what avail was it that they were astonished? Who could so suddenly repose the faith in the words and scholarship of an unknown woman who lived on alms and so was not to be taken seriously? So people judgment that he should be a bhikshan. Now she is a bhiksha jivi sannyasini. So I take it seriously. Therefore, the words of the Bhairavi Brahmani would have gone the way of those of the physician of Eastern Bengal. Would have surely failed to make an impression on Mathura had the master not made an eager request which made the matter stand on quite a different foot. The childlike master said, childlike means not due to ego, that is the meaning. The childlike master said importunately to Mathur, good scholar must be brought, and what the Brahmani says must be tested. Otherwise, you will be holding that I am mad. The wealthy Mathur thought, where is the harm in doing so? So much money is being spent on doctors and medicine for the junior Bhattacharya. When the scholars come, he is thinking other way. When the scholars come and refute the Brahmani's words by quoting the authority of the scripture, which they are sure to do, at least one good result is sure to follow. Namely, believing in the words of the scholar, the sincere soul of the junior Bhattacharya will at least be finally convinced that he has contracted a disease. His thinking was on the other side. Consequently, he may form a desire to control his mind. A person becomes mad when instead of making an effort to keep his thoughts and feelings under control, he gives them free rein to run amok, thinking what I do and understand is right, and what others understand and ask me to do is wrong. I suddenly remembered something and I love to tell without telling names. About two Swamis in Nagpur. One was a thorough Vedanti. My Guruji used to say, he is my replica. And the other was a gentleman. Gentleman, you understand? Appearance nice, that's all. That was the only quality which he had, though he was a sadhu. Now, one of the great Swamis of the order, he is telling me, see that man, how nice he is. And see this man, arrogant. What I say is true. I remember because of this word. What I say is true, arrogant. That was his judgment. Now, why is telling that what I say is true? Because of the Shastras. Because of the authority of his Guru. Because of the authority of a Brahmajna Purush. And his false defector. whenever that person used to come to Nagpur, he would go to his room and tell him, this is wrong, that is wrong. And he used to feel insult or whatever it is. So the mistake which I will tell, mistake apparent, is that he is not going to be convinced what is the use in telling that much. So, now I am not comparing anybody with Thakur, but the principle is same. Thakur knows the truth and he is allowing Mathur to make going under treatment. That also is agreed. A mad person will say, no, I will not take any treatment. You know, one of the signs of madness is that they don't believe they are mad. You are mad, they will say. But that is absent in Thakur. But he did not listen to Bhairavi heard once. So he is so sure of the truth. That difference one should understand. That is exactly the way how a person becomes insane. Two extremes look alike. If some worldly cause is there and he does not listen to others, he is insane. He becomes insane. And if he is sure of the truth, he will turn others' heads, not that he is insane. And there is no doubt that his mental derangement as also his physical disease will be aggravated if instead of inviting scholars, the Bhattacharya is allowed to believe freely in the words of the Brahman. That means because of Brahmani, this became more strong in Mathura. Up till now, there was nobody to tell that he is avatar. Though Mathur believed in high state of devotion, but along with that, he has some insanity. And Bhairavi was the first to tell it is not insanity. These symptoms are rare, that is why you do not understand. And these symptoms happen only, according to her, in Radha and Chaitanya. So rare they are. Thinking thus, and partly out of curiosity and partly out of love for the master, Mathur, we clearly understand, agreed to convene a meeting of Pandits at master's request. That is how they came. Vaishnav Charan and Gauri of Indesh were invited. Indesh is a part in Bengal. From there, Gauri Pandit was invited. Vaishnav Charan was in Calcutta itself, though he used to live outside. Vaishnav Charan had at that time a great reputation in the community of the Pandits of Calcutta. Again, his name and fame spread among the people in general also, as he read and explained, that means in sadhakas or pandits and in common man also. The people in general also, as he read and explained beautifully the Bhagavata to the public in various parts of the country. Bengal. This was how the master, Mathur and the Brahmani had heard of him. Before Mathur chose to invite him, they had heard about him before Mathur chose to invite him. And as they knew of the uncommon power and scholarship, so two things, scholar and sadhaka and good explainer of Bhagavatam, Mat Vaishnavacharya. And Gauri, scholar and had Siddhai. And as they knew of the uncommon power and scholarship of Pandit Gauri of Indesh of Birbhum, that is another part of Bengal, Mathur resolved to invite him also. This was how Vaishnavacharya and Gauri came to Dakshineshwar, not together. We heard from the master now and again many things about them. We shall now set out before the reader what we came to know of them. Through them, Thakur. This is how these two great people thought of Thakur. How famous Vaishnav then was. Vaishnav was not only a scholar but was also known to the public as a devout aspirant. His love for God and keen insight into the philosophical scriptures, especially, I thought that, philosophical scriptures, especially the devotion into devotional scriptures, made him, it may be said, a leader of the then Vaishnava community. That community always gave him the first place at all ceremonies and received him with respectful invitation. When a conclusion concerning any religious matter had to be arrived at, they would always consult him and depend on his decision. Again, many devout aspirants approached him to inquire about the right paths of sadhana and followed his advice faithfully. It is not surprising, therefore, that Mathur resolved to bring Vaishnav Charan for ascertaining whether the condition of the master was due to devotion in excess or to some physical disease. Now, in between, something happened. The Brahmani's prescription for curing the burning sensation in the master's body. This was one of the signs. In the meantime, the Brahmani obtained one important proof of the truth of her opinion on the condition of the master, which brought as much joy to herself as surprise to others. That she got convinced that what she is telling is true, and surprise to others. It was this. Sometime before the Brahmani arrived, the master had been suffering terribly from an intense burning sensation all over his body. Treatments of many sorts were administered, but the cure was as far away as ever. We were told by the master himself that the pain, starting with sunrise, went on increasing as the day advanced, till it became unbearable. Let me see whether it is pain or burning sensation. What is the problem? Gatra Daha, that he has already told. Jala Nivarane, Anek Cheshta Vyachilo. So pain is not mentioned anywhere. Burning sensation is different from pain. Jala, everywhere Jala is mentioned. That the burning sensation, starting with sunrise, went on increasing as the day advanced, till it became unbearable at midday, when he had to keep his body immersed in the water of the Ganga for 2 or 3 hours, with a wet towel placed on his head. He had to come out of water even against his will, lest he should fall a prey to some other disease due to cold. Therefore, he had to shut all the doors and windows of the proprietor's mansion that we have seen, that kutia, koti, and roll on its marble floor carefully weighted with a piece of damp cloth. In water he may get cold, but he is still feeling burning. So in the room, the floor used to be wetted, and on that he used to roll. No sooner had the Brahmani come to know of it, than she came to a different conclusion. She said that it was not a disease. It had come on him as the result of his intense spirituality or his love for God. She went on to say that such physical counterparts of the mental changes due to extreme eagerness for the realization of God, had very often been seen in the lives of Sri Radharani and Sri Chaitanya. The medicine for curing this disease, so-called, was also extraordinary, namely, to adorn the patient with garlands of sweet scented flowers and to smear his body with fragrant sandal paste. What is the inference? Why this is the medicine? Have you thought? Now he is feeling virav, separation from the Lord. Now these things, by these things, Lord is decorated, no, usually. So it will tell him that Lord is you, yourself, or you is within you. That is the idea. None, not even Mathur, it is superfluous to say, could suppress laughter and the Brahmanis' diagnosis of the disease, let alone they are not believing in the treatment. They thought within themselves how preposterous it is for her to say that it was not a disease when it could not at all be alleviated even by taking so much medicine. Because it is not a disease, so medicines are not curing it. When it could not at all be alleviated even by taking so much medicine and using so many oils like Madhyam Narayan Tel, Vishnu Tel, and the like. But no one could have any objection to this simple medicine prescribed with the Brahmani, which was so easily available. The patient would himself give it up in a day. See, everybody's mind is as in some split sentence. The patient would himself give it up in a day or two if he did not derive any benefit from it. The person of the master was therefore adorned with sandal paste and garlands of flowers in accordance with the Brahmani's prescription. And to the astonishment of all, the burning sensation of the master body absolutely disappeared in 3 days. Absolutely disappeared. Again it had come, that was a different thing, but here it disappeared. But did the skeptical mind believe the truth so easily? It said, it must have happened in the way of the well-known analogy of the Kakatalia. You know Kakatalia, ne? You know, a branch of the tree has become very weak or almost separated from the tree. And at that point, when crow hits, when the crow hits, it falls down. But it is not due to crow hitting. It is because it has already become weak and separated and dry from the tree. That is called Kakataliya Nyaya. So by the treatment he was receiving, Madhyam Narayan Tel and all that, he is about to be cured. And she did this and he became cured. So even after getting cured, they were not believing in. The last installment of the Vishnu oil given to Bhattacharya for use was absolutely genuine. This was clear from the very manner in which the physician spoke. Their argument will go like this. That oil was producing a good effect, and the whole of the pain would have been cured by its use in a day or two. Again, pain. Just when the Brahmani prescribed the smearing of the sandal paste, that was how it had happened. But the use of that oil should be continued, whatever the Brahmani might say or prescribe. The Brahmani's prescription for curing the master's inordinate hunger disease. There appeared shortly afterwards on the master's body another disease. This also, we were told by the master himself, was cured in 3 days when a simple prescription of the Brahmani was followed. The master said, I felt an inordinate hunger at that time. I could not have my fill, however much I ate. What is this? His mind has become expanded, his mind has become universal. Body is like an individual. So he wants more food, more food, more food. Now I ate. Now I felt hungry again, as if I had not eaten anything. I felt equally hungry, whether I took food or not. Night and day, that desire for eating prevailed. It has no cessation. I thought, what is this disease again? I spoke about it to the Brahmani. She said, fear not, my child. Such states, it is written in the scriptures, come from time to time on the travelers on the path to the realization of God. I will cure you of it. So saying, she asked Mathur to keep arranged within the room stacks of all kinds of food, from flattened and parched rice. What are the Bengali words, you know? Flattened rice? Chide, Marathi poha, in Hindi chuda. And parched rice, mudi. Murmura, churmure. In Tamil Nadu, pauri. She asked Mathur to keep arranged within the room stacks of all kinds of food from this ordinary thing, from flattened and parched rice to sandesh, rasgulla. These are Bengali sweets. Made of what? In English, what will you say? Cheese, cottage cheese, chana, paneer. Sandesh is only chana plus sugar or jaggery mixed together. That's all. And rasgulla, balls of that is made and put in sugar syrup. That is becomes a rasgulla. Luchi. Luchi is the Bengali form of puri. Puri is made from atta, whole grain flour, while luchi is from maida, the extract of wheat, and other things, all known things. Then she told me, my child, remain in this room day and night and eat whatever and whenever you like. I remained in that room, walked up and down, looked on those stacks of food and handled them, now eating something from one stack, now from another. 3 days passed in this way when the inordinate hunger left me and I felt relief. What is this inference? I feel, yes, everything is available, I can eat that much. If you feel it is limited, you want more. This is our inference. These states arise as the result of the practice of yoga. Now, Saradananda Swami is intervening here. What we saw about that kind of hunger of the master later on. It was sudden in those days. And it subsided also. In the Bhairavi Brahmani's presence, it became continuous. We have heard that sadhakas had felt such excessive hunger, etc., both before and after the state of yoga, or when the merging of the mind in God became easy to them. And we were filled with surprise to observe such a state many a time before in the life of the master. But the state of the master we saw was a little different. During this period, the master did not remain constantly afflicted with hunger as on the occasions mentioned earlier. Sometimes he saw him in a state of bhava, taking 4 or more times the food that he usually took, without feeling any physical discomfort. The reader will understand the matter easily if you mention here a few such events. The first example, he took a big piece of sir. What is this sir? malai, cream, in a solid form. Because they are counting 1 sir, 2 sir. So it is a form of malai or cream. A big piece of sir. We have already given the reader one instance we have described in another connection in the Gurva beginning about those ladies bringing a sir and Thakur was not there, they gave him to Ramlal. And in the night, Thakur got full food in the Balram's house, teacher's house. He had gone that day, Master Master. And when he came back and slept, he got up and said, I am feeling hungry. Bring whatever is there. And that's sir, he ate almost whole. And he is telling the ladies next day, a little stomach had become hot, nothing. So he's a different person at that time. That is what Saradananda saw you. We have already given the reader one instance. We narrated earlier in the book, in connection with the Master's divine Leela with women devotees, how some ladies of Bagbazar went to Dakshineshwar to pay a visit to the Master with a big piece of cream brought from the shop of the sweetmeat maker Bola. It's a famous shop in Calcutta, Bola sir. How failing to meet him there, they went with great difficulty to the house of Mahendranath Gupta, the teacher, where they met him. How Prankrishna, the whole thing is summarized. How Prankrishna Mukhopadhyay, whom the master used to call the fat Brahmin, came suddenly there, and how those ladies hid themselves under the bedstead on which the master sat, and so on. We also told the reader how the master came to Dakshineshwar, having taken his meal in Calcutta, and how he felt hungry once more that night and ate almost the whole of this brought by the ladies. We shall now mention here a few such instances. We say few such instances because such events happened almost daily in the master's life. It is therefore impossible to record all of them. Second example, he had 2 pounds of sweets and parched rice at Kamar. 2 pounds, little less than 1 kilo, 1 seer. Old people tell us even today, till Saradananda's time, today, that until malaria broke out for the first time and a greater part of Bengal of profuse water and fruits and green with paddy plants was depopulated by its fury. You know this endemic, pandemic comes quite regularly. So malaria now is a common disease. But when it came, it had come so ferociously. People died many. Was depopulated by its fury. The climate, before that, the climate of the districts of Hooghly, Burdwan, etc. was not in any way inferior to that of the northwestern parts of India. They say that in those days, people used to go to Burdwan and such other places for a change of climate. Kamarpukur is situated about 25 miles of Burdwan. The climate of the former place also was conducive to health in those days. We already said that on account of the practice of extraordinary austerities for 12 years and constantly remaining in ecstasy afterwards, without paying any heed to the body, even the firm physique of the master became gradually unfit to undergo physical labor and sometimes was assailed by severe diseases, actual diseases. That was why, when his sadhana was complete, the master would go for a change to Kamarpukur and some other neighboring places every year for the Chaturmasya. What is Chaturmasya? Chaturmasya? 4 months of rainy season. Now in rainy season, many rules of health change. You should not travel, Those who are traveling should stay in one place. And Calcutta, what happened? That Ganges water became so much muddy. So Kamarpukur is away from Ganges. Go there. Every year for the Chaturmasya. And at the end of the tour, he would return to Calcutta. His nephew and faithful attendant Hriday went with him. Mathur Babu not only paid the master passage to and from Kamarpukur, but sent with him all the provisions and other necessary articles, lest he should lack anything in that small village. When a mother sends for the first time her daughter to the house of the latter's father-in-law, she sends with her even such trifling things as toothpicks and wicks of lamps. Exactly in the same way did Mathur Babu and his devout wife Srimati Jagdamba Dasi very often send everything necessary for starting a new home for the master when he went to Kamar. For it was not unknown to them that the household of the master at that village was like that of Shiva. Shiva's household? In Kailash, he lives in the company of ghosts and ghouls, and there is nothing there. So generally, my houses are called like Shiva. There had not been the slightest idea of providing anything for the future, like Shiva. From the time of his forefathers, the practice of that family was to remain firm on the path of righteousness. Living on whatever might be available, they managed the household with the paddy produced annually on half an acre of the trust land of Raghuveer. Raghuveer was their family deity, and somebody had created a trust. The grocer shop in the village was the store of this pure holy family. You understand? You have a kitchen store. When something is not present, you bring from the store. When they have nothing, they go to the shop and purchase. So the shop is their store. It was only when a little money was available from farewell gifts, etc., that articles of household use, salt, oil, vegetables, etc., were purchased out of that store for that day when some money was available. Otherwise, they lived happily on rice and wild greens available without effort on the bank of the pond. And at all times and in all matters, they relied wholly on the living presence of Raghuveer, their family deity. Thakur generations. As he knew all these things, Mathur Babu had the strong desire to buy a few bighas of paddy land and make a trust of it in the name of Sri Raghuveer. And it was from the same motive that he sent all necessary household articles with the money. He could not make that. Thakur scolded him back. The master, who I said earlier, used to come every year to Kamarpukur during the Chaturmasya. One year, when malaria had already made its appearance in those parts and was decimating the population, he came and suffered from it a great deal. This made him resolve not to come to his native village anymore, and never again did he come. For malaria, he used to go, but in Kamarpukur also when malaria attacked, then he did not go. He used to go for not for malaria, but Ganga water becoming muddy, he would suffer a stomach problem. He made that resolve about 8 or 10 years before he passed away. But this is to anticipate. That means the time when he is telling those things, these things are of much future. And Sadhana Swamiji takes up something, he tells the whole history. But this is to anticipate. He came to Kamarpukur that year. There was constantly a crowd of neighbors, men and women, who came to see him and listen to his religious talk. A current of bliss flowed incessantly there. All the ladies of the house, with him in their midst, were engaged joyfully in serving him and those who came to see him. No one knew how days of joy were slipping away one after another. Ramlal's mother, the mistress of the house, Ramlal Thakur's nephew. So, Ramlal's mother means Thakur's elder brother's wife. Ramlal's mother, the mistress of the house, with sister Lakshmi, Thakur's own sister, Lakshmi. No, 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 no. That Rameshwar's daughter, Thakur's niece. So, sister for us. If Thakur is our father, she is our sister. Ramlal's mother, the mistress of the house, is sister Lakshmi, her daughter, junior. And the supremely revered Holy Mother were there in the house. Saradananda Swami always mentions about mother like this, the supremely revered, Paramaradhya. The night had advanced 3 hours. The neighbors, men and women, had taken leave for the night and had gone home. The master had been suffering for a few days from indigestion and had been taking nothing but sago and barley water at night. Water. What are the two different things, do you know? Sago water and barley water. I learned this in training center. If it is much motion, then barley water. If it is constipation like, then sago water. He took milk and barley that night. So, water it is said, but with milk. He took milk and barley that night also and went to bed. The ladies of the house took their meals last of all and were about to retire for the night, having finished their day's duties. After meal, they had to do some cleaning and all that. After that, they were about to sleep. The master suddenly opened the door of his bedroom, came out staggering in Bhav Samadhi, and addressing Ramlal's mother and others, said, I see you are all gone to bed. Why have you done so before giving me anything to eat? He is a different person now. Ramlal's mother, how is that? Have you not taken your meal just now? The master, when did I? I came from Dakshineshwar just now. When did you feed me? So he is only Kali the mother now. So he wants food. All the ladies wondered at this and looked at one another's face. They realized that he was speaking thus in Bhav Samadhi. But what could they do? There was no food whatever in the house that could be given him. What was the way out then? Ramlal's mother had therefore to say hesitatingly, there is nothing eatable except parched rice in the house now. Will you take parched rice? Why don't you take it? That will not do any harm to your stomach. Saying so, she brought some on a plate and placed it before the master. He saw it and turning about angrily like a boy, said, I will not take merely parched rice. No, angrily I am not happy with. રાગ કર્યા છે બાલકે ન્યાય રાગ કર્યા. Said, I will not take merely parched rice. She tried to persuade him and said, you are suffering from stomach troubles. Nothing else will suit you. Moreover, all the shops are closed now at this hour of the night, and so it is not possible to go and buy sago or barley for you. Take this small quantity tonight I will cook for you soup and rice as soon as I rise tomorrow morning. What is the soup? Jhol. Bengali jhol. How to describe in other language or for other people? Lot of water, very little of spices. That type of vegetables is called jhol. I will cook for you soup and rice as soon as I rise tomorrow morning and so on. But he would not lend his ear to it like a sensitive, importunate boy. The master repeated the same words, I will not eat it. He is not Ramakrishna at that time. That was Thakur's common food, jolbar. There being no alternative, Ramlal was sent out to the shop, Lakshmi's brother. He called the shopkeeper repeatedly and roused him from sleep. He purchased 2 pounds of sweets and brought them. Together with parched rice, a little more than sufficient for a normal man, they were placed on a plate. Now the master sat joyfully to eat and consumed the whole of it. That 1 pound sweets and parched rice. And all the household then became afraid and thought, a person suffering from stomach trouble who lives on sago and barley for half the days of the month has taken so much food so late at night, something serious is sure to happen tomorrow. But strange to say, the master was seen to be all right on the morrow. No discomfort whatever was felt by him on account of the food taken the previous night. Something strange is coming to my mind. Sometimes thing he is asking is not available with you. So you convince in some way, take this, that is better for you. But she has acknowledged also that we do not have anything now. Shops are also closed. A big fight in Nagpur Ashram one day. We had a unjoined brahmachari and he was having some problem. He was staying in the ashram. So he told the Bandari Maharaj that he wants stew, something. And he told the cook, and cook by mistake gave him only water. That vegetable removed and only water. They said, what is this? Then the Bandari Maharaj said, no, that is good for you. If you want, I will cook again. Like that. Anyway, normal human behavior, I mean, take. Fourth example. Fourth means, first was that sir. Where is the second? No. I have skipped. Third example, he ate about 5 pounds of boiled rice with a tiny morella fish of salt. On another occasion, when the master was living in Kamarpukur, he was taken to Jairam Bhatti, the native village of his father-in-law. The master took his meal and went to bed. But shortly afterwards, he got up and said, I am very hungry. The ladies of the house were beside themselves with anxiety. What could they give him to eat? There was nothing in the house for the annual shraddha of someone of the forefathers or some such ceremony had been performed on that day, and many people had been fed, and so no food was left over. There was some boiled rice steeped in cold water. You know this? What is called Pantabad. In Tamil Nadu also this is there. That is the breakfast in many houses. Or full food. That means they eat these farmers and go to the field. It is cool system. There was some boiled rice steeped in cold water. When the Holy Mother announced this hesitatingly to the master, he asked her to bring it. She, however, said that there was no curry. The master said, "Why don't you try to find a little? Did you not cook fish with chili and turmeric? Why don't you see whether a little of that is left over?" That is like Krishna going to Pandavas and asking something is there. The Holy Mother looked into the cooking pot and found a tiny morsel of fish with a little paste-like soup sticking to it. So she had to bring it. The master was delighted to see it. He sat to eat that boiled rice, steeped in water at that dead of night, ate up a quantity weighing about 5 pounds. Huh? Is it possible? Had I say? With that tiny fish for sauce and was at rest. For example, he had 2 pounds of sweet pudding at midnight at Dakshineshwar. The same thing happened occasionally while he was at Dakshineshwar. Occasionally. One night at about 12, the master got up, called Ramlal and said, "I am very hungry." What was to be done? Generally, there were sweets and other eatables in stock on other days, but on that occasion there was nothing in the room. Ramlal at last went to Nawab and informed the Holy Mother and the women devotees about it. They got up very hurriedly and made a fire by means of straw and firewood and prepared about 2 pounds of halwa. What is halwa? No, it has different names in different parts of India. In Marathi, what is the name? Shira. In Tamil Nadu, Kesri. Halwa is made of two things, either atta itself or rava, suji. And it is fried and sugar is put in. Sweet pudding it is said. Pudding, okay. Pudding is generally from milk. No? Sent it to the master's room in a big stone cup full to the brim. One of the women devotees brought it there. She just stepped into the room, dimly lighted by a lamp in a corner where Ramlal was sitting quite nearby. She was startled to notice the master walking up and down, overwhelmed with an extraordinary spiritual feeling at the dead of night, an hour silent, calm, and tranquil. She espied that grave and sublime face of the master, brightened with spiritual emotion, that God intoxicated figure, that inward steadfast look of those large eyes, before which the whole universe merged into and emerged from samadhi at will. From Thakur's face appearance, it was like this. That grave majestic gait, that wholly indrawn mind, and that random pacing up and down in supernal bliss. It seemed to her the master's body had become much bigger in both height and bulk, as if he was not a mortal of this earth, but some god from heaven, come in the guise of a human being to this earthly sphere, so full of misery, wailings, and death, and veiling himself with the darkness of night. That being was majestically pacing up and down the room. It seemed to her that he was in a profound concentration of mind in order to ascertain, out of compassion, the way by which he could convert this burning ground of the dead, as this world really is, into a heaven fit for God's living. One thing seemed certain to her. He could not be the same master whom she had known. The hairs of her body stood on end, and she felt an indescribable awe as she approached. or is a type of fear out of too much respect. Ramlal had already placed a seat for the master to sit off. With difficulty, the woman devotee went and placed the cup of halwa in front of the seat. Actually, halwa is not served in a cup, in a big bowl, you may say. The master sat down to eat and gradually ate up the whole of it under the influence of that spiritual intoxication. Did the master understand the thought of the woman devotee? Who can say? But while he was eating it, he saw her looking at him aghast and said to her, "Tell me who is eating? Is it I or someone else?" The woman devotee. "It seems to me as if someone else is there in you and it is he who is eating." The master, "You are right." Saying so, he smiled. So God in him was eating. Om Sarvadharma Stapakasvam Sarvadharma Swarupakah Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishna Ayate Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanam.
Jaya